So October, November 2025, paper 4.1 question number 2. Again, a very simple and straightforward question regarding the object-oriented programming. So they're saying do not write the train and its constructor. Do not declare the methods. All attributes should be private and then include attribute declaration. Okay, so this time we'll have write private. So this would be class train, and then we have the train ID number and we have the route. So let's call it ID and let's call it route. And then we'll name these, and these will be private, so we'll put double dash here. So we'll say self dot dash dash train ID number is equal to ID, and then self dot dash dash route is equal to route, like this. Okay, and then we also need to add the declaration. So this would be string and this would be an integer. Simple. Okay, next part, they are saying that we have to write some getter methods as always. Get train ID number and get route. Okay, so let's do that. We have defined get train ID number and get route. So we return the values. Okay. Next question says the program is tested for trains. That program code to declare an instance of each of these 4 trains. Okay, that means we go into the main function. So we go here into the main function and then we write here. So let's have d1 is equal to train, and then the first thing would be the ID number, which is 12 ADB, and then the route is 134, like this. And then we do the same thing, 2, 3, 4. So we'll quickly modify these 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then we have 33 ART, we have 9 FKF, and 21 VBC, and 134 and 20 and 3 and 24. Okay, here we go. So we've done that. Then in the next part, they are saying that we have to create another class station, which will be, okay, so station is the next class now, and it is supposed to have the constructor, then it should also be private. Okay, so there is no inheritance here, they've not mentioned that, so we don't have to do any inheritance class station. Okay, so it will have the constructor, and then it will have the station ID, number of platforms. Okay, so they're saying that we'll initialize the station ID and number of platforms with the parametric values, trains to an empty array and number of trains to 0. Okay, so we have to do exactly what they've asked. So we have the station ID, SID, and then the number of platforms. So let's call it platforms, and that's it. So 2 parameters. So self dot dash dash station ID is equal to station ID, and self dot number platforms to number platforms to this value. And then they're saying we have to set the value of some empty of this trains to some empty array. And then they're saying that the number of trains should be set to 0, self dot dash dash number of trains should be set to 0. Perfect. Simple enough. Okay, then we move on to the next part where they are saying, okay, we have to add the attributes as well, declaration. So string integer train integer. So string integer train and integer. This T should be capital because it's a type of this class object. Okay, then they're saying add train takes a train parameter. Okay, so this is going to be a method now that we have to write. So here we go. So we have to define add train self method, self a parameter. Okay, so they're saying the method compares the attributes number of trains and number of platforms. To identify if there's a platform available, the method returns false if there are no platforms available. If there's a platform available, the method will store the train in the trains, update the appropriate attributes. Okay, so we simply have to check, are there enough platforms available? So let's say the number of platforms available are 5 and maybe the trains are 4. The method compares to whether there's a platform available, a platform with no train right now. So since there are enough platforms available for the train, so this should be fine. But let's say we have 6 trains and we have 5 platforms. Now this would be an issue, right? And then Also, there is one thing to notice here. Identify there is a platform available, a platform currently with no train. Okay, so that means one platform needs to be empty, which means if I have 5 platforms, then the trains must be must be 4. Plus one platform should be empty like this, right? So they shouldn't be equal. This should always be less. So the number of trains should always be one less than the number of platforms available so that we can park our new train here. Okay, this is a little tricky. Not even tricky, it's just something logical to understand. Simple math. So again, if there are 5 platforms, 4 trains are parked. So a new train should be allowed here. So the condition would be that if the value of trains is less than platforms, only then we will park them there. Otherwise, they would not be allowed. So let's write the code. So if self dot dash dash number of trains are less than self dot dash dash number of platforms, only then we are going to allow a train in there, and we will write. So if that is the case, so we have to go into the train array, and then it's saying store the train parameter in the array trains. So array trains, and we do append, and we do there will be some, let's call it new train. So we will this would be a lot of trains, by the way. So in order to avoid confusion, I'll just call it new t. So I'll say append this new t inside the new train inside our train array. So whatever the new train is going to be on the terminal, on the platform, it would get there. And then they're saying to update the appropriate attributes. Now, since there has been a new train added, so we'll say number of trains would be incremented by 1. And in this case, we would return true. Okay, if that is not the case, if there are not enough platforms available, so we'll return false. That's it. Then in the next part, they are saying we have to write a method get trains, which will return the string. There are no trains if there are no trains at the station. Okay, so let's try this as well. So we have defined get trains. So first of all, you have to check if the number of trains are equal to 0, then that means there are no trains available. So if self dot trains, it should be self dot dash number of trains. Number of trains are equal to 0, then that means we are going to return there are no trains. If there are trains at the platform station, then the method returns the string in this format. The trains at station ID are this. Okay, now how do we get this? Again, we have to go back. If we look at this trains array, this was created of type train. Okay, now what is happening in the train? So in the train class, we will have an object which will always have an ID and it will always have a root. So just for example, this trains array that we're creating here, how would it look like? It would be an array, but there would be objects of train in here. So there would be an ID. Let's say we have ID number A, and then they will have a root. Maybe root number is 5. Then we could have another object. It could be ID number could be G, and the root number could be 10. And these would be the different objects inside the array. So what I'll need to do is, if I need to access one object at a time, I'll go to my trains array. I'll go to index 0, and at this index 0, I cannot directly access the ID or the root ID. So what I need to do, I need to use the get methods. So I'll use get train ID number like this, and I'll also use trains in current index get root. So it would allow me to get the root and the ID. So this is how the array would look like. So getting rid of this is just for explanation. Okay, so there are no trains. Okay. Otherwise, what we're going to check is we're going to output the values. So let's call it message is equal to this. So they're saying the trains at the station ID are this train ID number on the route number. So we are simply going to print the values of our trains array basically. So let's look through our trains array. So for given the number of trains that we have, so for I in range from 0 till self dot dash number of trains. Okay, I think I need to bring back the array that we just created. Shouldn't have deleted this. Okay, so like this. Let's say we only have two trains right now, okay, and the rest of these are empty. So this is empty and this is empty. So what we'll do here is that we're only going to run the loop for two times. And how do we know two times the loop would run? That number would be stored in this attribute, number of trains. So it will always keep a track of how many trains we have right now, right? So keeping that in mind, I'll just bring it here outside and just comment out this part and we'll remove it at the end. Okay, else. So what I'll do is I'll run a loop for I in range self dot dash dash number of trains like this. Okay, and for this many number of trains, I need to get their station ID, I need to get their train ID number, and then I need to get their route number. Okay, so station ID is stored in the trains at the station. So where is the station ID? So we have the okay, station ID is here in the station class. Then the train ID number is in the train class. So in this train array, which has the train objects. So trains is the name of the array, and train would be the type of the object. So this is how the array would look like. This is how we'll get the pending details. So let's first do that part. So we'll say self dot trains index I dot get train ID number like this. So first we get the number here. Let's call it train ID like this. Then we need to get the route number. So route is equal to self dot get route. Like this. So we get the train ID number and we get the route number. And then we need to get the station ID number. Okay, so station ID number would be stored at this station ID attribute. So we need to get this out as well. So let's call it SID, and this would be in self dot dash dash, and we'll just say station ID like this. So now we have all the data ready. We just have to print this. So we'll say I'll just print this inside a format string. So print format string, and we'll say that we have the trains at station SID like this are okay. So this should be printed once. I just saw this should be printed once. So I'll bring it outside else and I'll put it here. And I'll put this part outside as well. So this should be printed once and like this, and then we have to print the remaining part. So we'll say output for the format, and then we have to write our train ID number, that is an ID train ID number on route number, route like this. Okay, so ID has a train ID, route has a route number, and SID has a station ID. The line is on route number is repeated for each train at the station platforms. So that is why I brought it outside the loop, because this would keep on repeating multiple times for each train. Okay,
Where
then
did we get this station?
so the definition here would be that each station can have multiple platforms, and then each platform will have one train like this. Again, this is just for our convenience. Okay, so we are done till this point. Then they're saying, for example, if the station with ID NT1 has two trains with the ID numbers this, the method will produce. So the trains at the station NT1 are, so it will print something like this. Okay, it should do that. And we have written the code. Okay, then they're saying the program is tested with two stations. All right, so let's hide all of this. And then they're saying write code to amend the main program. So we will go into the main program, and then we will write code to amend the main to declare an instance of station. So station, let's call it st1 station 1, is equal to station, and then they are saying that the station ID is STH and the number of platforms are 2. And then there is a station 2, which is also going to be an object of station. It will have ID and TH, and then the number of platforms are 1. So it's automatically labeling this station ID and platform ID. All right. Now in the next part, they're saying that we have the 4 trains attempt to stop at the following station in the order given. So write code to amend the main program to add each station to the given station using add train. Okay, now just like we discussed. So inside the station class, we have a trains array, and in the trains array, we're supposed to have these trains. And what is happening in each train? Each train is supposed to have an ID and a route, right? So that is what we're going to do. So we created some trains here. We have this train 1, 2, 3, and we have these route numbers. This was stated in the previous question. So we are going to just go ahead and add this. So they are saying 4 trains attempt to stop, write code, add each train to the given station using add train. Okay, now what was add train doing? So if we go back up, add train is this function which will take an object train. And again, what is an object train? We have created these objects of train. So we'll write add each train to the given station, and then station is full. Okay, so we have 2 stations there. So we have station 1 dot add train T1, and then we check if it is returning full. So let's get the response here. Okay, and let's also see what the response would be in add train. In case of add train, the response would be either true or false. So that's what we're going to check. So if the response is equal to if false, not response, then we'll say print that the station is full, just like the question says. Okay, so if output station is full for any train where the return value indicates it cannot be added, output the trains at each station using get trains. Okay, then we go to the next one. So we'll say response is equal to station 1 dot add train, and here we'll add the second train. And again, if the response is not given, then that means that that's not the case. The fourth, okay, so yes, one thing we forgot to see. So the first 3 trains are going to the STH station, okay, and then the third and the fourth train is going to the NTH station. So station 1 is basically the STH station. Okay, let's change their names to avoid confusion. This should be station STH, I think south, and station NTH is north. So let's change this south. Okay, so the third train 9FKF is also supposed to go to south. So we'll say response is equal to south station dot add train 3. Train 3 is the 9FKF. Okay, and then we again check if it is not, it's returning full, then we write station is full. And then the fourth train 21 VBC, this train is supposed to go into the north station. So I'll go and write response is equal to north station dot add train, and we add the train 4, and then we check if the station is full again here, like this. Okay, then they're saying that output the trains at each station using get train. So now what does get trains do? It will just simply output this current station ID and all the trains part at that station. So here we go, and then we output no station STH dot get trains, and then station NTH dot get trains, and if we call these, it's going to print us something. Okay, now let's go ahead and test. Okay, this is the output. It says station is full. The trains at the station STH are 1, 2. So let's check it manually as well. So this is going on the station north 134. Okay, this is fine. Then this is also going north. This is fine. And then it says the stations. Okay, so then we have this one for the north. It says these are going to north. So the reason this thread was not added is because the station is already full, so it won't get added. And that's it. That's the whole question.